Good afternoon and welcome to the meet and greet for SJTPO scenario planning project for our upcoming Regional Transportation Plan 2050. We certainly appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedules to attend this event. My name is David Heller and I'm one of the program managers here at SJTPO, and I will be serving as the project manager for this project. This project, I will note, essentially kicks off the visioning process for our next long-range regional transportation plan, as I just mentioned earlier, the RTP 2050, and that is expected to be adopted in January of 2025. So on the screen is today's agenda. So just going through the agenda, first we'll start off with a general introduction of who the South Jersey Transportation Planning Organization is, or SJTPO. Then I'm going to hand it off to Emily Raquet from Stanta Consulting Services, who is the project manager on the consultant side, and she will introduce the rest of the project team. This will be followed by an overview of the project, and we will then discuss the specific roles and responsibilities of the Stakeholder Advisory Committee, which is the main reason why you came here, to learn more about being a member of what being a member of this committee entails. And finally, we will end with your questions and a discussion. So as you are viewing this presentation, you may want to jot down or make note of any questions or comments you may have, and we'll try and answer them in the end. So who is SJTPO? So as depicted on the slide, SJTPO, and I think as many of you know, we use acronyms a lot in this business. So SJTPO is a Metropolitan Planning Organization, or MPO. And this is an MPO is a federally mandated regional agency that is required for areas of 50,000 population or more in order to receive federal funding for transportation infrastructure projects. MPOs promote state and federal planning priorities in their region, serving as a technical resource to member subregions, which are typically counties, although they can also denote major municipalities, such as the city of Vineland and the city of Atlantic City in our case. Rather than focusing on one city or county, MPOs provide regional approaches to transportation planning and engineering issues. The SJTPO was formed in 1993, and as you can see on the slide, serves Atlantic, Cape May, Cumberland, and Salem counties. As you can see also, all of New Jersey is covered by an MPO, which is unique as most states have areas within them that are not covered by an MPO. Our neighboring MPOs include the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission, which is to our west. They represent the Philadelphia metropolitan region and cover 4 counties in New Jersey, and our neighbor to the north, the North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority, which is the MPO serving 13 counties in northern New Jersey. So here you can see the members of the project team. Myself, depicted on the lower left-hand corner, and Jennifer Marandino, our executive director, who is not present but will remain engaged in the project through its duration. On the upper right-hand corner, we have our Technical Advisory Committee, a team of mostly planners and engineers from our 4 constituent counties, as well as our major transportation agencies within the region, including the New Jersey Department of Transportation, New Jersey Transit, and the South Jersey Transportation Authority, amongst others. The TAC provides a forum for discussion on regional issues and performs the essential function of reviewing and disseminating information. They also provide input to our policy board, which is comprised mostly of elected officials from our counties and selected municipalities within our region, and serve as the official governing body of the SJTPO, voting on major decisions and approving major documents, such as the Regional Transportation Plan. And now I will hand it off to Emily Raquet, the project manager for Stanta Consulting Services, who will introduce you to the rest of the project team and lead the rest of the presentation. Thank you again for attending.
Thank you so much, David. Can everyone hear me as well? Yes, Emily.
You do, Emily.
Thank you.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
as David said, I'm with Stantec Consulting Services, and um, m- myself and I'm joined today also by Stokes Creative Group, which we are working together to support this excellent project to get the regional transportation plan started. So, a little bit more about this particular project. This scenario planning project is, as we said, the start of SJTPO's development for their long range transportation plan. Scenario planning is a exercise that's actually been used across many different industries to be forward thinking about risks and different potential futures. And it has become a standard practice across different transportation agencies since the mid 2000s. And this is actually the first time that SJTPO is undertaking a scenario planning process. And we're very excited to see how this is going to really infuse public and community input early on into the visioning process. So, what is scenario planning? This is a bit of a recap from the fact sheet that was included with the invite today. This definitely a great piece of information to help understand what we're trying to achieve here. And I'll just go over some of these concepts now. The biggest thing with scenario planning is developing a shared vision of the future for the people who live, work, and play in a region. And this is done through 6 different phases, which are listed off to the right. And right now we are in phase 1, where we're engaging partners like all of you to be a part of this process and really help achieve that final goal of planning for our desired future. For scenario planning on a more technical side, it's intended to explore how different trends and issues may affect, in this case, South Jersey, and how different planning decisions might influence the outcomes of these different futures. So we're going to be looking at plausible trajectories of change and then taking a look at how that applies to transportation needs. And as part of this process, we're really going to want to be hearing from all of you and members of the general public on what are your opinions about where the region is going, what you think are the challenges that are upcoming, and what is the desirable future for all of you to be living and working and doing business here in the South Jersey region. I have some examples over here on the right of what scenarios might be like. These are definitely not set in stone, that this is just provided for example. And the first stage of this will be deciding which scenarios we really do want to explore as part of this process. But we could be looking into how will climate change affect how you get around, um, issues on for children in transportation and aging populations in transportation. What is the future going to bring as far as electric vehicles? Is that going to impact the region in some way if we don't do anything? So here's a graphic that shows who is participating in this scenario planning process. And as you can see, there are many different groups that are feeding into this process. And that really helps it to become a well-rounded vision and start to the regional transportation planning process. First of all, we have the South Jersey community as a whole and the general public. As part of this process, we're going to be asking members of the general public to share their personal transportation priorities via a survey, which I'll get to a little bit later in the presentation as well. We're going to have all of you, the Stakeholder Advisory Committee. We're going to want from you to share your organizational priorities and as individuals, but to show from these different key groups, where do you see the region going? What are your challenges that you're seeing for the future? And how is that going to potentially change how SJTPO is planning for the future? We have the Technical Advisory Committee, which Dave spoke about earlier. They are here to provide their technical expertise and their agency outlook. So as groups that are actively working on transportation and in the region currently, they have unique insights into where the region is going. We have SJTPO, which is going to be designing these scenarios and identifying the trends that help support this. And with the help of myself and my team as the consultant team, we're going to be working to assess those scenarios and synthesize these community priorities to help bring data-driven results to this process. So I've been talking very broadly and about different visions and goals, and I wanted to bring into context how does doing scenario planning now actually shape the future of transportation in the South Jersey region. So in this graphic, we're starting off on the left. We're doing scenario planning now through the beginning of next year. And this is very big picture thinking. We're doing goals and visioning, and it is not super specific yet. And that is one of the benefits. We're able to look at a broader lens, bring in different thoughts and ideas, and really be able to look at the whole picture to start. Then next year into 2025, SJTPO is going to be putting together the formal regional transportation plan. So this is a lot more specific, and it'll be drawing from the big picture thinking and goals and visioning that we're doing now to then create a more specific and concrete plan. And then eventually this regional transportation plan is what guides these different project funding decisions in the region. Of what actually gets built and what is going to be actually occurring in the region. So to give you all a little bit of an idea of how these 10 months of this study are going to go, I've provided a high-level project schedule here. Right now, we are in mid-September. You can see we're currently forming this stakeholder advisory committee, and we are currently at the meet and greet. So following this up, there is going to be a public survey that I mentioned before, which I will go into more detail on the next slide. And right now we're formulating what possible scenarios do we want to be looking into. And this part of the process, we really appreciate your feedback and your insights as members of the community on what are these future thinking ideas and to help us build scenarios that are useful and reasonable and address the thoughts and concerns of the region. There will be a public workshop that we're hoping all of you can be a part of in early December, where we're going to actually form up those scenarios to say, okay, these are the ones we're going to move forward and do a more technical analysis of. My team will then spend some time assessing those scenario impacts, and then we'll reconvene in February, look at those results, and look at how that can be applied to visions and goals based on the results of those scenarios. So then I'll culminate in a final technical report that will lead into the regional transportation plan development later in 2024, which we would be very grateful if all of you would continue to stay involved in that process, especially if you see value during this first phase of scenario planning. So what is our ask of you to be part of this stakeholder advisory committee for scenario planning? One of the asks is that you help distribute this community-wide public survey. So this public survey is to help glean insights into what are the concerns and thoughts of the general public as far as long-range planning and the future of the region from transportation and external factors. So we would want you to share this on any organization, official social media accounts, newsletters, or any way that you communicate with the groups that you either represent or work with. As a member of your organization, we want to know what your transportation priorities are and the major hurdles you're looking at in the future as they interact with the transportation system here in the region. We would want you to attend the 2 workshops that I previously mentioned. And overall, our time commitment estimate is about 10 hours over the next 10 months. So it's not a particularly big ask. We wanted to keep it so that we could maximize what we're getting from you in the process in order to best support without um, going, I guess, overboard, as one would say. So that's all the presentation aspect that we have here today. So I would like to open it up to questions and general discussion about this process and project.
Will the slides be distributed?
Yes, we can
Thank you.
provide a copy of these slides for you all to look at on your own time. And if you have any questions, feel free to use the hand raise in the bottom left corner, the chat, or feel free to just unmute yourself and call out.
I'm sorry, did you tell me when is your plan going to be adopted?
I can answer that. January of 2025.
Thank you.
I'm sorry if I maybe. Oh, I'm sorry. This is Jason Simmons from Federal Highway. I'm sorry if I missed this, but what's the next plan step for this group?
So the next step for this group is 1, helping with the distribution of the public survey, and 2, we will be requesting specific feedback about your views from an organizational standpoint about potential transportation futures and interests so that we can help form scenarios to assess that are going to be valuable to all of you and to SJTPO as far as forward thinking. And then you would also be a part after that of actually looking at the scenario results and helping determine what a preferred future would look like.
And most of that will be conducted through what, a survey or through kind of like a focus group sort of interview process?
So we anticipate that most of this would be through email, survey, and written feedback so that we can give you all a chance to sit down with the questions and provide some feedback to us in a written format.
Excuse, if you don't mind me jumping in, Emily. Yeah, Jason, at the workshop in December, I mean, we'll have formulated well before then, through email and the survey, possible scenarios, the universe of scenarios. I mean, the main goal for the workshop in December is to come up with just, again, about 3 or 4 scenarios that the stakeholder group as well as the TAC want to carry forward further, like go through the evaluation and assessment, carry forward into the plan. But I hope that everybody, can be at the workshop or can attend the workshop in December, because I think that'll be very productive. But like as Emily said, I think this we'll get a lot of the ideas for the scenarios through the survey and other email, and I think primarily.
John,
Looks
I
like
see that you have your hand up. You can go ahead and ask your question or voice your comment.
Great, thanks, Melissa. My question is, the work product that this group will produce in January 25, does that then go to the state and federal legislative bodies to determine prioritization for funding and implementation?
I'll answer that. I mean, this will, as you correctly pointed out, this will lead to the regional transportation plan, um, which will have priorities, include, priorities. Um, we typically don't forward it to the state legislative bodies. I mean, we forward our final plan usually to the state DOT, New Jersey DOT. I mean, the state main transportation agencies like on our TAC, as well as US, as far as the federal agencies, US DOT. We typically don't forward it to the legislatures. I mean, we haven't in my experience. I mean, could we? I don't see why. I guess I don't see the harm, but we typically don't do that. I don't know if that answers the question, but obviously
Yes, it does.
our policy board is made up of elected officials. They will ultimately adopt the scenario, the RTP, and they're all elected officials. And I guess they could. I mean, it's mostly county officials and city like mayors, but again, I can't speak to whether the state legislators will ultimately see it. But like I said, I don't think anything precludes us from forwarding a copy to the state or the
Yeah,
US.
no, yeah, you answered my question. Thank you. So this is essentially not an internal, but it's more of an internal NJDOT work product. And then from there, they'll prioritize it or determine whether uh, certain aspects of it get funding or not. So thank you for answering my
Okay,
question.
okay, thank you for the question.
Yeah, and John, just to piggyback on that a little bit, it does prioritize the regional funding that's sub-allocated to SJTPO from federal high, through the DOTs, US DOT and New Jersey DOT, and in terms of discretionary funding for federal grants, compliance and with the long range transportation plan is kind of one of those things that um, you know to get a project funded, it would need to be, kind of listed in the long range transportation plan often. And then that plan feeds the transportation improvement program, which is the list of federally funded projects. So it's a really important document. Sometimes gets overlooked in terms of its importance, but yeah.
Thank you all for the good questions. Are there any other questions about further involvement or about the scenario planning process and what we're going to be trying to accomplish over the next few months? Yes, Megan?
So this might speak more to the scenarios, which I guess there's plenty of time to weigh in on, not so much the process, but I know the Justice 40 concept is kind of baked into all future funding, but I wonder if a scenario that's related to, specifically to disadvantaged communities might be, I mean, it's kind of implied in some of them with, transit and climate change, but maybe it's worth kind of teasing it out individually.
Thank you. Yes, I think during this process now, we want to hear any specific ideas that all of you have as a group of scenarios you would want to explore so that we can have that in consideration when we go to pick the ones we'll be doing a deeper dive in. So thank you. Thank you. So David, seeing no other questions,
Yeah,
thank you. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, yeah, no. Seeing no other questions, I was going to say we can, we can adjourn the meeting. But again, I do want to thank everybody for coming. I know you're all very busy, um, and your time is valuable, so we appreciate your time. And just, I guess, as Emily said, we'll distribute the presentation, but there is a specific email address for additional comments, um, scenario planning at sjtpo.org. So if something comes up, or you think of something, tomorrow or whatever, please feel free to send an email that way, and we'll we'll respond as soon as possible.
So
Yeah,
if
we
I
look
could
forward.
ask,
Go ahead.
yeah, if Mr. Simmons and anybody from the SJTPO wants to hang on, I've got a couple of questions and I don't want to delay the meeting. I'm with the Federal Aviation Administration. I just want to talk a little bit about how Jason and I could communicate through DOT, et cetera. And here again, it relates to scenarios, and I don't want to, be the kid keeping everybody from recess. So.
Right. Thank
Right.
you. With
And I'm sorry, just one quick follow up on the in terms of like helping share the survey with stakeholders and everything. Are you guys going to want or I don't know, like almost like a tracker of like so who was reached out to and maybe when, so just to try to kind of capture that public outreach component?
I think that is something that I don't immediately know the answer on, but I can definitely get back to you with. Great. So with that, if there was anyone who wanted to stay on to express any initial ideas for scenarios, you are more than welcome. For the rest of you, thank you so much for taking your time today, and we look forward to staying in communication with you and to get your feedback throughout this process, and gift you a half hour of your, I'm sure, very busy day back to you. Thank you so much.